The pain of living as a false self. You've felt it too, haven't you? That strange, sinking sense that something is missing. That no matter what you achieve, no matter how much you earn or how many people praise you, there's this haunting emptiness inside. You smile, you post, you laugh when expected, but deep down, you feel like a stranger in your own skin. Who are you, really? This is not depression. This is not anxiety. This is the agony of not being yourself. Carl Jung called this the crisis of the persona, the mask you wear to survive in society that eventually becomes a prison. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Carl Jung, modern man in search of a soul, visuals of urban life, masked faces, crowded rooms, empty gazes. From the moment we're born, we're told who to be. Be polite, be strong, be successful, be normal. We learn to smile when we want to scream. We chase careers we hate, relationships we don't belong in, and identities we never chose. And for a while, it works. We become someone. But that someone is not us. We start to notice the symptoms of this lie. Chronic fatigue that rest doesn't fix. Constant comparison, envy, and secret shame. Emotional numbness. Or the opposite. Breakdowns we can't explain. And the worst one, feeling totally unknown, even to ourselves. This is not a personal flaw. This is a collective tragedy. Millions are living behind masks so thick, they've forgotten the face beneath. Jung's concept of the persona. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, saw through the illusion long ago. He believed that every human being constructs a persona, a social identity, a psychological mask, to function in society. The persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself as well as others think one is. Carl Jung, 2 essays on analytical psychology. It begins as a tool, a necessary way to fit in, to be accepted. But over time, the persona becomes fused with our ego. We believe the mask is who we are. This is the beginning of inner death. The cost of living unauthentically. Consider the successful executive who earns 6 figures, but cries every night in silence because his life feels meaningless. Or the woman who married for security, not love, and now finds herself shrinking into a version of herself she doesn't recognize. Or the teenager who suppresses their dreams, their identity, their truth, just to avoid being rejected. These are not rare cases. These are your neighbors, your friends, your co-workers, maybe even you. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Carl Jung. The urgency of the true self. Why is this happening? Because the cost of not being yourself is your soul. You can build a life that looks perfect on the outside. The job, the house, the spouse, the likes, and still be dying inside. Because only the true self can feel truly alive. Carl Jung knew that the path to wholeness, what he called individuation, begins with breaking the illusion of the persona. To find your real self, you must first realize that you've been living as someone else. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Call to introspection. Ask yourself right now, what part of you have you abandoned to be accepted? Who are you when no one is watching? Whose life are you living? This pain you feel, this disconnection, this silent suffering, it is not weakness. It is your true self trying to awaken. In the next chapter, we'll explore how the shadow of your abandoned self, the parts you repress and deny, hold the key to your inner transformation. But first, look in the mirror, not at your face, but behind your eyes. Do you recognize the person staring back? How to find your true self. There's a quiet kind of suffering that no one talks about. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't scream. It just waits. It hides beneath perfectly timed replies, behind your "I'm good, thanks." It waits behind careers that look impressive but feel like slow poison, behind marriages that post anniversary photos but haven't known intimacy in years, behind goals achieved that somehow didn't fix anything. You know it. It's that strange emptiness you feel when you're surrounded by people who think they know you, and yet no one really does. Not even you. Here's a question. No one asked you growing up. What parts of yourself did you have to bury to survive? To be loved? Did you have to become predictable? To be accepted? Did you learn to stay silent when it mattered most? To belong? Did you erase pieces of yourself until the whole thing stopped making sense? Carl Jung didn't offer self-help advice. He didn't teach positivity. He went straight to the wound, because the wound is where the soul begins to speak. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung book. That privilege, it costs everything fake. And the truth is, most people will never pay that price. They'll keep performing, smiling, achieving, slowly rotting behind a version of themselves that was never real to begin with. Think of the father who never pursued music because men were taught to be stable, not expressive. Or the teenager who hides her intelligence to stay likable. Or the woman who became a mother, wife, and caregiver, but forgot how to be a person. These aren't stories from novels. These are lives, millions of them, lived in quiet compromise. We've mistaken adaptation for authenticity, but Jung saw through it all. He warned us, when you disown your truth long enough, it doesn't disappear. It festers in your body, in your choices, in your relationships, and one day, it shows up as a crisis you can't ignore. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung, this isn't just psychology. It's a call to remember what the world asked you to forget. So before we talk about finding your true self, you need to know one thing. You're not lost. You're buried, under expectations, under roles, under every time you said yes when your soul screamed no. This video will not hand you easy answers, but it will offer you something more important. A mirror.gest. The persona, the beautiful lie you call me. No one tells you that the first thing you'll need to kill is your own image. You've spent years crafting it, polishing it, protecting it. The version of yourself that says the right things, looks the right way, fits into rooms without shaking anything. But here's the brutal truth. You've become so fluent in performing, you forgot how to be real. Carl Jung called it the persona, a necessary fiction, a psychological mask we construct to interface with society. It's not inherently evil. In fact, it begins as a survival mechanism. You're born into a family, a culture, a religion, an economic class, none of which you chose. From your earliest memories, you're taught how to behave in exchange for love, safety, approval. The persona is a complicated system of relations between individual consciousness and society, a kind of mask designed on the one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and on the other to conceal the true nature of the individual. Carl Jung, The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious. In simpler terms, the persona is your social armor. It tells people what they want to hear. It gets you hired. It makes you likable. It helps you pass in a world that punishes difference. But here's where it turns toxic, when the mask stops being a tool and becomes your face. When you've worn it for so long, so convincingly, that not even you can tell where the mask ends and the real self begins. That's when people start saying, I don't know who I am anymore. Existential consequences. This isn't a metaphor, it's a system failure. This isn't poetic, it's mechanical. When the persona dominates your psychic life, your internal world atrophies. You become split, a curated identity on the outside and a repressed chaos on the inside. You start developing symptoms: emotional disconnection, sudden rage that feels out of character, feeling empty despite external success, inexplicable guilt or shame, fear of being found out, This isn't just stress. It's your psyche revolting against the script. The persona is not who you are. It's who you needed to become to be accepted. And there is always a cost. Jung understood this cost better than anyone. When people are compelled to give up their masks, they are often utterly terrified. They do not know what will happen. They are afraid of being unmasked. And he was right. Peel off the mask, and what's left? Usually, confusion, anger, grief. Because under the persona lies everything you've disowned to be loved. Reality, check. This is not a philosophical game. Look around you. How many people do you know who are simply acting out their lives? The man who laughs loudly at jokes he doesn't find funny because he learned early that silence makes him invisible. The woman who always says yes because she was punished every time she asserted herself. The strong one in the family who doesn't allow himself to feel anything other than control. These roles become cages. Cages lined with compliments, paychecks, likes, and social status. But cages nonetheless. And the tragedy, we reward the persona. Society doesn't ask if you're real. It only asks if you're useful, desirable, stable. We give Oscars to actors, but the highest. The existential dilemma. Why most people will never remove the mask to dismantle your persona is to risk exile. Social, familial, spiritual exile. And Jung knew this. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Carl Jung, Psychology and Alchemy. He wasn't being dramatic. He was being precise.